Low lighting, rain, jazz, subdued characters. I've always really liked the noir aesthetic. Well, I say I've always liked it, I don't think that's actually true. If I had to pinpoint an exact time, it would probably be when I was 9 years old and had just started playing Halo 3 ODST for the first time. I was super hyped for ODST. I remember watching the first trailer for it where the rookie lands in New Mombasa in the rain and is trying to evade patrols and thought it looked really cool. But to be honest, when I finally got ODST, I was disappointed, and before Reach even came out, my dad took me to GameStop and I traded in a few games including ODST for like $5 of store credit. And I wasn't the only one. If you go to Metacritic, ODST has the lowest critic score and user score of any Bungie Halo game. I remember seeing Angry Joe's review of ODST where he called it overpriced downloadable content. That, I think, is the core of most people's disappointment with the game at the time. The feeling that they were paying $60 for just an expansion pack to Halo 3. In preparation for this video to get footage, I played through the entire game. Just casually, I didn't use speedrunning tricks, I didn't skip a single cutscene, and I even had to restart Kikowani Station because of a glitch, and I beat the entire campaign in less than 3 hours. And as opposed to Halo 3 at the time, which had online matchmaking, custom games, and Forge, as well as just a longer campaign, ODST just had Firefight. When you combine this with the fact that the game uses the exact same engine as Halo 3, which had already been out for 2 years when ODST was released, I understand why people at the time felt like the game was a ripoff. It also doesn't help now that ODST is only a $5 DLC on the Master Chief Collection. But as someone in 2023 who didn't just pay full price for this game and doesn't really care that it's on the same engine as Halo 3 because all Bungie Halo games are old at this point, Halo 3 ODST, for what it is fantastic. I don't think it's perfect, and we'll talk about what I think could have made it better, but I had a lot of fun playing it again. But why is it the way that it is, with such a short campaign and on Halo 3's engine? The answer? Bungie didn't want to be with Microsoft anymore.
The deal was essentially, we make a couple more Halo games, we leave Halo with Microsoft, and we can split amicably. So, I mean, ultimately the price of our freedom was to leave our baby behind.
We had 2 more Halo games, and Reach was only one of them. What can we do in 1 year with the engine we've already built, not a whole lot of engineers, just a handful of artists? What can we do in a year to get a game out the door?
So there you have it. While most of Bungie was starting on their next big project, Reach, a small team at Bungie was tasked with getting a game out the door in a year. Now, on the negative side, this obviously explains why it uses the old Halo 3 engine and why there isn't that much content, but on the positive, I think this also explains Halo 3 ODST's thematic direction. As opposed to a mainline Halo game to that point where you're a 7-foot-tall green cyborg that single-handedly destroys entire enemy armadas and blows up ancient superweapons, Halo 3 ODST tells a small-scale story. In ODST, you're not supposed to be a super soldier. You're a guy. An elite guy, but still just a guy. In the Starry Night commercial for Halo 3, Master Chief jumps into battle with an entire army, while in the ODST trailer I mentioned earlier, the rookie hides from a brute patrol. This reflects the development process for each. Halo 3, big budget, epic sci-fi action, huge stakes. Halo 3 ODST, small scale, stripped down, personal. So what is the story of Halo 3 ODST? You play as the Rookie, a new member of an ODST squad that's orbital drop shock trooper who gets dropped into the city of New Mombasa ostensibly to board a carrier, while in reality Intelligence Officer Dare has other secret orders, but before you can do anything else, the carrier makes a slip space jump which throws every pod off course in different directions. You wake up hours later after crashing and have to explore the city to find out what happened to your squad. It's this element that I love the most about Halo 3 ODST, wandering around the city streets, alone, in the rain, at night, in the aftermath of a Covenant invasion. You don't know where you are, you don't know where your squad is or if they're even alive, and there are Covenant patrolling the streets looking for human survivors. These sections are beautiful. The atmosphere is brilliant, and it's made doubly so by the music. I praised him in my video on Bungie, and I'll do it again now. This game is Marty O'Donnell's masterpiece. For the mood ODST is trying to set, the score is perfect. It's all original to this game. It doesn't reuse anything from the past games because epic sci-fi space music would not fit in this story. Somber jazz-influenced music, on the other hand, again, perfect. And it sets the mood right off the bat. When you first loaded up ODST on the 360 or start the first mission on the Master Chief Collection version, you're greeted by a text scroll that tells you humanity is on the verge of extinction and sets up the story of ODST, while the overture to the ODST soundtrack plays. You know instantly this is a different story than any other Halo game. As you explore the streets, you get guided by the superintendent and find clues about what happened to each of your squad mates. Upon interacting with one of these clues, you get a flashback which starts a level. These levels are more of typical Halo. Daytime, bright outside, there are Marines and squad mates and they're action-packed, where you're driving tanks, blowing up bridges, driving around a wildlife reserve, and so on. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, but ODST has maybe the best set of levels in the entire franchise. They're all great, and I think Kazingo Boulevard might be my favorite tank mission, period. The set of levels from Kazingo Boulevard through Data Hive are all, I think, A-tier Halo levels. Now, like I said, the campaign is pretty short, but what is here is super fun. There's no infamous levels like the Library or Sacred Icon or Cortana that feel like a slog. While you're exploring as a rookie, you'll also come across audio logs that tell a separate side story. As you collect them, you'll uncover parts of the story, and if you get all of them, I won't spoil anything, but the mission Data Hive plays out slightly differently. By finding them, you'll also gain access to weapons and vehicle caches throughout the city. The Mombasa streets are an open world. It's not Skyrim or anything, but you're given the freedom to move around and explore on your own. When finding clues, you don't even have to get them in the order you're supposed to. You could jump around and play the levels out of order, but if you've never played the game before, I definitely would not recommend that because the story will make absolutely no sense to you. But it's still neat. As far as the story goes, there are details like the character drama between Buck and Dare that I didn't really care about, but the overall narrative of the rookie trying to find his team and Dare's secret mission I think is really strong. Outside of the campaign, ODST also introduced Firefight, which would go on to become a staple in following Halo games. Games like Halo Reach. That's it. But it was a great addition while it lasted. And I do prefer ODST's classic Firefight to what Reach would later do. In ODST, you're limited on lives, you're limited on ammo, and you have to survive as long as you can. Halo 3 ODST's Firefight is about survival, whereas Reach later on had classic Firefight, but its primary Firefight modes were one round and were about getting the highest score possible. I think ODST handled it better, although Reach also introduced the ability to customize Firefight, changing weapons, damage, health, enemies, everything, and that would have been cool to have in ODST too. Which, I did say ODST wasn't perfect. I think if Bungie had more time to work on ODST, the things I'm about to say would have been hammered out and this game would have been a 10 out of 10. I love this game thematically, it's absolutely beautiful, and I love the loneliness and isolation while you play as the rookie, illustrated by that trailer to this game where the rookie evades the Brute Patrol. The problem? That element is not in this game nor reinforced by the gameplay. One of the challenges with developing this game was that you are the Master Chief, so how do you make it feel different while all in the same engine? You do have new tech, namely the visor, which acts as night vision and highlights enemies, allies, and story objects. You have the new suppressed SMG and pistol. The pistol specifically is a great addition, and there are minor things like you lob grenades instead of throwing fastballs, and you have a health bar, but overall you still feel like a super soldier. You can still run in and wipe out any enemies you come across. There's no real reason to try to be stealthy or evade anyone. And sure, enemies are pretty tough on Legendary, but they also are in every other Halo game. You're just a guy, yet you can still jack vehicles. You can still insta-kill any enemy in the game except hunters with a backsmack. You don't have shields, but the stamina bar essentially acts the same way. When it's full, you don't lose health. Thematically, as an ODST and not a Spartan, I think this game should have been made much harder and the battle should have been at a much smaller scale. This would make it so you really have to think before jumping into a fight, and maybe you should be stealthy and evade the Covenant rather than just fight everyone. As an ODST, it should be scary to come across a patrol with a brute captain and 4 grunts. ODSTs are elite, yes, but they aren't supposed to be Spartans. Taking on an entire Covenant squad by yourself, in my opinion, would still make an ODST elite. Whereas instead, this game is pretty much the same difficulty as Halo 3 and you're fighting the same level of fights as Master Chief. The fact that this game just feels like another Halo game in terms of gameplay is both its greatest strength and weakness, because in terms of executing the basic Halo formula, I think this is arguably the best. But that completely goes against the theme of the game, the core idea that you aren't the Master Chief and that this is going to be a different experience. It's really not, especially during the missions as your squad mates. This is where I think the short timetable really hurt them, because what I'm describing probably wasn't doable with what they had. I think the fact that this game for the most part just feels like Halo 3 on Earth is most obviously attributable to them having to use the same engine. But that's my primary gripe with this game. It still just feels like Halo 3 and you still feel like an unstoppable super soldier, which again, for what Bungie had to work with, I think they probably did the best they could, but if they had more time, I think ODST could have been an incredibly unique game. But as it stands, I still love ODST, and I think playing through it again for this video made me appreciate it even more. It's by no means a bad game. I completely understand criticism of the price tag from when it came out, but now in 2023 that you can get all the levels and Firefight on the Master Chief Collection for only $5, I think that's well worth the money. So if you've never played ODST before, or you played it years ago and hated it, I would encourage you to try it again now that those other factors aren't really in play and you can judge the game on its own merit. I had a lot of fun playing it. I love the music. I love the atmosphere of the city at night. I think the campaign levels are all pretty good. I think the game is beautiful. I think ODST for what it is a great game. That's all for me. I'll catch you later.